Pogacar in the team car, helping maybe Isaac Del Toro try and win the pink jersey.
Welcome back to Spin Cycle, everybody. I'm Caley Fretz. Today on the show, drama at UAE. The UCI has some new rules, and Tom Pidcock went pretty fast. Let's get to it. You like that intro, Johnny?
Yeah, I'd say is top 10% of your intros.
Little twists there, here and there.
Yeah,
you know?
Why not?
Yeah. What did you think, Dane Cash?
I liked the intro. I liked Johnny's face. He put his hands on his face, which I think is tailor-made for a YouTube thumbnail. He's ready.
I think we should start doing that for the YouTube. Is that we have to pull one YouTube face, and then it's a Russian roulette of who I Photoshop out for the cover. Also, is Russian roulette? Are you allowed to say that anymore? Maybe not. Who knows?
I think it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we worried about the Russians' feelings?
Yeah.
I get the sense that they'd be fine with it.
Yeah.
I mean,
there are normal people in Russia, despite what your
export.
media tells you guys every day of your lives. Anyway, cycling.
Cycling. I did say let's get to it, and then we didn't get to it. So let's get to it. We're going to talk a little bit of Tour de Suisse today, which I really, unfortunately for the Tour de Suisse this year, it is playing second fiddle to the Dauphiné for obvious reasons, right? We had a Pogacar-Vingegaard battle through the Dauphiné, and Tour de Suisse we've got mostly UAE kind of yelling at each other, which is actually really what we want to talk about because this team, and we saw, I think, inklings of this during the Giro when they managed to lose the Giro, managed to clutch defeat from the defeat from the jaws of victory.
You got it. You got it.
There we go. And we've seen a bit of this before. We're seeing more of it. Dane, what have we seen at Tour de Suisse this week?
Well, Joao Almeida of UAE, who's having a great year, by the way. I feel like it's sort of got flown under the radar, but he's won some races. He's had a great year. Goes into the race as the leader, big favorite from UAE. He was runner-up last year. Very first day, a breakaway takes the stage. UAE, well, he's not in it. Joao Almeida's not in it. Romain Gregoire ends up with like 3 minutes on him. Ben O'Connor's there as well, has 2 minutes on him. So they go into this race thinking they're going to have a shot at the GC, and then all of a sudden, one day in, they're on the back foot. And they got to claw back, minutes to some good riders. Ben O'Connor, I think, is the real one you got to be most worried about, although Gregoire's doing a good job.
Alaphilippe?
Sure. Julian Alaphilippe as well was up there. Anyway, so on the back foot, very first day. And then they got to claw back, and there was some potential internal strife in the team.
On stage 2, so after this whole, not quite farce, I don't think Rob Hatch would have called it a farce. More racing, more interesting bike racing that didn't suffocate the life out of the bike race from the start, which we do appreciate. But then we had Jan Christen, one of the next generation of UAE potential wonder kids, 20 years old, shoots out off the front of the bunch, late attack, doesn't come to anything necessarily, but shows that he's there, he's about it. You'd think fine normally, but then Danish broadcasters TV2 corral Mikkel Bjerg, another UAE guy, at the finish, and I'll ask, did Jan Christen, this guy, was that attack planned? What's going on? And he was like, no, it wasn't planned, and it's it's great to see he's got good legs, but it's just a shame he won't use them in support of his teammates. which completely unprompted, said it in Danish, so probably thought that he might have a chance of it not getting out, but not
2025.
Yeah,
we've all got Google Translate.
Yeah.
But
so
one of my favorite bits about that is you ask that question a lot, and it often is one of those questions that you pull out of your back pocket when you kind of can't think of a better question. Like you've just could have come across a rider and you're like, you weren't expecting to speak to this particular rider, which is how it often happens in cycling journalism, which is like they come across the line, you're trying to grab somebody, maybe you miss the rider you're actually going for, and you end up with Mikkel Bjerg. And you're like, shit, what am I going to ask this person? And you just ask him, like, was what we just watched the plan? And because it's not really a question, and 99 times out of 100, they just basically say yeah, or say no and don't really extrapolate. the fact that we got an actual answer to that question with some spicy side is a very unique thing that we should appreciate. And I love the fact that we got an actual insight into. He must have been pretty angry to respond that way, don't you think?
Well, frustrated maybe, because Mikkel Bjerg, talented rider in his own right, but has sort of decided that the route of luxury domestique is the life for him, which I completely appreciate. No stress, get paid a bunch of money, be good, be valued, good life, right? And the pecking order then. But this is the problem when Tadej Pogacar is not a race for UAE, is that you have so much talent and everyone is, all the top guys and the potential leaders, or just anyone, is so aware that their chances to win is so reduced by having Pogacar in their squad that they're just like desperate for it. And then that seems to cause internal strife. It seems like Tadej Pogacar is both UAE's best rider and best sports director, because things only seem to go to plan when he is at the bike races.
Or do you not need a plan when he's at the
I
bike
think
races?
that's what it is.
Either or, right? I want to see an experiment next year at the Giro. I want to see Pogacar in the team car helping maybe Isaac Del Toro try and win the pink jersey that year. But
that'd be fun.
Almeida's not out of the race yet.
Not at all.
We're recording as we're about to go up the summit finish climb for stage 5, so could all be fixed and fine, but more stress than is needed. I don't know.
Yeah, he won stage 4, and he looks really strong. I mean, he looks like the strongest rider in the race. I mean, that could change in between now and 10 minutes from now, but it seems like he could still overcome this early deficit. But the dysfunction in the team does make it entertaining. I think it made the Giro really entertaining.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
And one of the few things I think that is sort of standing between us and like Tadej Pogacar UAE total domination is the team itself, which is good.
They're having to bring themselves down from the inside.
Yeah, if you put Pogacar on Visma, it's like never win anything ever
Yeah,
again, right?
so true.
Like nobody else would win anything ever again, is what I mean.
I
I appreciate it.
The final part of the third part of this sort of dysfunction story, not necessarily dysfunction, but just like along the same theme, is that we've heard from AS, which is a Spanish outlet. Danny Miranda's the reporter who got the story. Juan Ayuso of Giro d'Italia 2025 fame and being sort of supplanted by his teammate. And I mean, Juan Ayuso was the original Jan Christen who had faced the accusations of not pulling for his teammates, and that's how it's all spiraled slightly out of control with media and fans. And Ayuso is apparently 99.9% definitely staying at UAE, according to a source close to the rider.
Even though we want him to go to Movistar.
Even though, can you believe that he's not doing what we want? But at the same time, it's been communicated what the rest of his year looks like. So he's going to San Sebastian, he's going to Tour of Poland, which, fine, Vingo went there last year. Sometimes you've got nothing better to do in August, especially if you're not going to the Vuelta, which he's not. Then he's doing Il Lombardia, he's going to the Worlds and European Continental Championships. But then there's the possibility that Juan Ayuso might be heading to the Tour of Guangxi, which, while being a fantastic... It's the punishment tour. It's a fantastic race and a great trip and opportunity. I can't imagine Juan Ayuso is there for, the free trip. If he really wants to go check out a bit of China, he can do that without having to race his bike in October. So it seems like he's been handed the punishment tour this year, which is,
I love that cycling has a punishment tour.
It's
what
great.
Would we do without a punishment tour?
More sports need punishment tours where teams can say without saying who they're cross with. I mean, is that why I got sent to the Tour of Guangxi a couple years ago?
John is realizing in real time.
Yeah, I volunteered myself to go there, but no one stopped me.
We should go again, and we should go and ask all the riders, what did you do?
Yeah, that is.
What did you do that sent you here?
I do there's a handful of riders who have gone many times. Like Tim Wellens has gone a bunch.
Well, some of them are kind of famous.
Like
and Tim Wellens is kind of like a superstar over there because he's won a few stages. So he gets on the stage and the house just comes down for Tim Wellens. So he must love that because in Belgium, he's obviously a great rider, but he's not even the top 20 Belgian riders. No, maybe he's top 20. I don't know, but he's not top 10 Belgian riders.
He's not top 5.
There's a bit of earnest joy there, I feel like, when you get a rider who's just adored by a subset of fans and most fans don't. I remember when... at the Grand Prix Cycliste in Montreal and Quebec, they would have just wall-to-wall billboards. First of all, it'd be Peter Sagan, but then they would have Antoine Duchesne who's a
Love it.
Quebecois rider, and it's
Love
like Europe car guy doesn't get a lot of press, but in Quebec, he's a megastar, and I just love that. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we used to do that at TDU. We were part of a group that would pick a very random rider and like
Be the fan club.
wall-to-wall fandom on
Nice.
Wollonga, right? And you just the guy with so it's sort of like some of them knew exactly what was happening. Some of them were just like deeply, deeply confused, and it was very enjoyable every single year that we did it.
The one exception to the punishment tour, so we'll get off Guangxi in a minute, because got all of October to talk about that. But the one exception to being a punishment is a lot of the Australasian riders use it to pay for like half a plane ticket home, which is smart. Which is why Luke Plapp was just DNF'd stage 1 and then was just bumming around the hotel for like 7 days because he didn't want to book his own ticket back from China. So financially responsible and a good time trialist.
Yeah, we're watching and making these Unchained binge podcasts right now. They're all going to drop in a couple weeks here. And one of the things that we keep getting in this series that we haven't gotten previously, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. Whatever, I'm going to say it anyway. We see a lot of garages, and it really makes you. It puts into perspective how cheap some of these guys are and things like that, right? Like you've got 4 like $200,000 cars sitting in a garage.
Yeah, well, it's because your vices are so
are we-
limited, aren't they?
Yeah,
Like
that's true.
can't do anything.
But why are we worried about the like extra $1,000 to get from Europe versus getting from China to home? I don't really get it.
Well, one of the riders I think that you're referencing is actually in the trailer, so it should be okay to talk about him because they actually show you his garage in the trailer.
Yeah.
I think
That's
a
fine,
specific
That's
rider
true.
who
So that's
has
fine.
a lot of money from an energy drink company
Yeah.
that sponsors his helmet. So
Yeah. Anyway,
Do
do we?
we-
Oh, go on. I've got a question.
I
But
was
you
gonna-
go first.
I was going to sort of pivot this forward to UAE at the Tour de France, and are we
Yes.
sort of hoping for a similar level of dysfunction there? I mean,
Yes.
are we,
Obviously.
Do we? So if we're looking at let's look at the UAE proposed start list for the Tour de France at the moment. I'm pulling this up right now. I have to remove.
I think
well,
I know most
I
of
actually
it.
think the rider who I'm at the moment I'm watching at the Tour de Suisse is one of those who could.
Oh yeah.
No, he's too nice. He's too nice a man, isn't he? He's got a nice face at least.
I think he's a nice guy, but I also think
So-
he has his own ambitions, and I don't know.
So UAE currently has 9. They have their long team down on the start list at the moment. So Pogacar, Almeida, Yates, Sivakov, Soler, Wellens. Speak of the devil. Narvaez. He's not the devil. I don't know why I said that.
Do you think that's the first time anyone's ever said "Speak of the devil"? Tim Wellens, I think so.
Domen Novak
Niels
and Niels Pollitt. So of that group, I think you are correct, Dane.
I guess maybe Yates
Almeida
also has
is the potential source of.
like. What if Adam Yates is like, you
Yeah.
know what? My brother won a Grand Tour. I kind of want to win one now. That would be.
They want to close
love
out
that.
the podiums with one family for the year, rather than they saw Visma do it with the team.
Yeah.
Now they're gonna keep it in a family.
Have the Yateses ever done drama?
No, but it's never too late to start.
I think Simon's. I mean, again, we always make fun of them, but Simon Yates' press conference quote about shitting himself remains,
Yeah.
I think, the
Yeah,
best
but
quote
that's
ever.
not. That was just like a.
And he had a weird-
That was a throwaway.
He had
You
that
know.
weird getting banned drama thing.
Oh, that's
Like,
drama, actually.
yeah.
That's true. They've had the opportunity, obviously, to have like sibling rivalry drama, and we haven't
Yeah.
even really had that. Like they
No.
race. Remember the Tour de France stage where it was just the two of them, and even after
Yeah.
that, you couldn't get one of them to say,
Yeah.
I want nothing more than to beat my
Beat
brother
him,
into
yeah.
the ground.
Which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
true. Which is
is true.
the true. If they look deep inside their souls, on this topic, Visma have been doing a lot of like Q&A videos on social media, so like asking riders, what do you think of X, Y, Z. One recently was, who's your favorite athlete? And so some of them were like naming, I think like Wout van Aert said that long jumper, or high jumper, Duplantis, the one who was in the Olympics,
yeah.
who keeps on beating the record by 0.1 meters because every time he beats the record, he gets like a big payday, which you got to respect. Dylan Van Baarle couldn't think of a single athlete he like respected or like looked up to, despite going out with Pauline Ferrand-Prévot. So couldn't
really.
even think about, couldn't even, imagine his real life girlfriend. And then Simon Yates obviously went for Adam Yates, but Jonas Vingegaard couldn't think of a single athlete that he enjoyed watching or admired. So I don't think he's not in sport.
Vingegaard and Van Baarle couldn't think of an athlete.
Van Baarle, I think, eventually came up with someone who I can't remember. Maybe said Wout van Aert or something. But yeah, Vingegaard just means it's like, no, don't like any athletes. So he doesn't watch sport. I imagine he doesn't have a TV in his house. If I had to guess, he's one of those guys.
You know, the fishmonger story, right? Like he just comes from a.
He's just a fisherman, not really fisherman, but yeah.
Johnny,
you
somehow ended up at the front of the Tour de France.
Johnny, I scoffed at Alaphilippe when you said him, but he has gone on the attack. He's looking good so far.
There we go, Arnaud Ball. Yeah. We've already got into sort of after dark mode. I think. Okay, you mentioned we've been recording the Unchained Binge podcast. I think I said to Kay before we started recording. In my mind, mentally, I'm at stage 15 of the Tour de France. I'm like sweltering. Mentally, I'm sweltering in Foix without not being able to construct a single thought in my head. So that's why we're doing this. Did we talk on Monday's podcast about the Dauphiné name change? Did we mention that briefly?
Well, it was breaking news because Dane messaged us and told us
Oh, that's
while we
right.
were recording. Yeah. So we can briefly mention it again because we didn't have any opinions about it. We just said it.
It's too quick.
So the Critérium du Dauphiné, formerly known as Dauphiné Libre, and it's had a couple different names over the years, is now going to be
the Tour
Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes.
Yeah.
Auvergne.
Catchy.
Which, Alp, right. Which one of the commenters pointed out that the number of syllables is actually not that bad. For me, the big problem is twofold. First of all, you have 2 hyphens in your name.
Yeah.
Because you want to get in all of these various parts of France that you're visiting to please these local governments, right?
Yeah.
So it's Auvergne Rhône Alp, which is just too much.
Who do you think you are, Liège, Bastogne, Liège? Come on now.
If it were just Auvergne, if it was just no Tour, right? I'd be more okay with it, maybe.
I would prefer the Tour Rhône-Alpes. Rhône-Alpes, sorry.
That seems fine to me. Or Tour Auvergne.
Anyway.
Is it the Critérium du?
No, not even.
No, Tour.
Or is it just the Tour of Rhône-Alpes?
Auvergne Rhône-Alpes.
That just makes it sound like something. I was just going to say something mean about Sam Bennett, but I'm going to do it anyway.
The poor guy doesn't need you to be mean to him. He's got a lot going on.
He's well. So this is the reason
fine.
I was looking at his results yesterday for some reason, and he's won a bunch of races this year.
Yeah,
but they are sort of smaller French races.
Yeah.
So he has won. Where are we here? He won 2 stages of the Région Pays de la Loire Tour and 2 stages of Tour de la Provence. So I was about to say that now it sounds like a race that Sam Bennett is winning.
Yeah.
And I'm not. That's not necessarily.
Cruel.
It's pretty cruel. I'm sorry. We like Sam Bennett. We always are mean to people and then say that we like them. That's maybe something we should try to.
That's
fix
we're just doing some gaslighting, like when you're 14 years old and you fancy a girl and you're a bit mean to get their attention. That's what we're doing with riders.
The reason that it sounds like a race that he would win is that he rides for a French team now and they send him to lower level French races. And lower level French races have a history of doing this, which is another reason I don't like it makes the Dauphiné now sound like some 2.1.
Yeah, that's my point. That was what I was saying meanly was that. Okay. Which is it just sounds like a second tier race now. Right.
Only in France would you actually have a race called what do they call it? The Tour des Alpes Maritimes et du Haut-Var. That's the name of a single a single race. You decided to change it just from being Haut-Var to that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't say the T in et.
Yeah, thank you. That went straight through my.
Sorry.
It's
Yeah.
not like Chart where you pronounce all of the
Tour des Alpes Maritimes et du Haut-Var. Yeah. Well, you do say it if it's followed by a vowel, but it wasn't there.
I love that Dane's kryptonite is pronunciation, whereas mine is if the temperature gets over 25 degrees centigrade.
But my French pronunciation is not incredible, but at least I know that much.
It's
And if you drop me into Spanish, I'm gonna have more problems than Dane will.
No, I think your Spanish is actually really good, Caley. I've always
been final thing on the Dauphiné. Let's cut the shit. Why don't we just call it the Petit Tour? The branding opportunity for that is fantastic. Because you can then be like, oh yeah, we don't go to the Tour de France, but we go to the small Tour de France, and then they might be like, okay, we'll give you some money, we'll sponsor your bike team if you're going there.
Yeah.
Just saying.
A
thought.
Genuinely one of the best ideas that's ever been uttered on Spin Cycle.
Thank you.
You're
Go
welcome.
work in branding, Johnny. That should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the UCI and a really silly trial for a rule. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Do we have a small Almeida update? Live?
He's hammering away with Oscar Onley. Poor Julian Alaphilippe tried, but he's now staring at a yawning gap. It's looking like Almeida's got
That's
a real
what he
shot of
does
winning the
these
overall.
days.
Yeah. Ben O'Connor seems to have fallen away a bit. So Decathlon Age 12 will be rubbing their hands with glee.
Oh, yeah.
And also because Felix
Yep.
Gauls are going well. But yeah.
Felix Gauls the only rider currently on their roster for the tour.
He's got a big job ahead of him then.
Yeah, they're not. They can't do the split sprinter thing again. Anyway, we're getting into Unchained territory at that point. We want to briefly talk about this UCI. Well, it's not a proposal anymore. It was sort of ratified by the Safer Commission. I think on Tuesday, and I was sent this. Excuse me. I was sent this memo from the UCI. Dan Benson, to credit, the individual who got it up first. He chucked this up on his newsletter, and yeah, obviously we've seen it, so I've confirmed it, and I think other media outlets have seen it since. There's still a chance this doesn't happen. Obviously, that's sort of the nature of these things. It's not quite a proposal, but it is. It's like one step beyond that. But the idea is, beginning of August, they're going to pick a couple events, and they are going to trial a maximum gear limit. And this is one of a sort of a pile of things that have been proposed to improve safety. And the idea here, and this is actually one of the ones that like Wout van Aert has gotten behind, which, who am I to tell Wout van Aert that he's wrong, except the fact that he is about this one. There's like pretty much all of the experts are saying that this is going to have either no effect or the opposite effect. Dan Bigham has said this. Ronan, our own expert, has said this. I swear to God, the UCI is releasing all these things while Ronan is riding around Ireland on purpose. By the way, if you haven't seen this, Ronan is riding around Ireland right now. He's doing so for
As in the whole of
food allergies.
Ireland.
As in
Not
the
just
whole
like
of Ireland.
riding around generally.
Yeah, he's just riding around, and he's doing so for a fantastic charity for food allergies, which his daughter has. And so, if you haven't already, go find Ronan on like Instagram, and then he's got links all over the place from there, and you should go donate to that. You really should. Anyway, as an aside, the UCI, I swear, is releasing all these things while Ronan is doing this project.
Yeah.
So the thing is, maximum gear limit. And they have set this maximum gear limit at it's like 10.65 meters of rollout. Anybody who has ever raced a junior race will know what rollout is. It's basically you put the bike on the ground, you do one full pedal revolution, and it's the distance that the bike goes.
Okay.
And so it's effectively it's the biggest gear you've got, and it equates to a 54-11 gear ratio, which is a pretty common sort of high gear, particularly among Shimano riders. Now, the problem with this, and I have briefly spoken with SRAM about it, but at the moment they're in no comment land. SRAM has a 10-tooth cog on the back, and that is a significant gear jump from an 11. So basically, every single, particularly the male peloton, although a good portion of the women's peloton as well, every single SRAM-sponsored rider currently rides a bike that would not be allowed under these new rules, because the SRAM riders tend to run these bigger chain rings, and they've got a 10-tooth on the back, and that, again, the gear jump from 11 to 10 is large. It's bigger than like a 22 to a 23 up in the other end of the cassette, for example. And so this test, which will have sort of questionable value, has all of a sudden forced every single SRAM-sponsored particularly male athlete, to change the way that their drivetrains are set up, and I can't imagine the mechanics are particularly pleased about this. I'm reticent to spend too much time on it because of the group that we've got in this particular
I've got some
podcast.
questions.
Do you have questions or comments?
I half understand what's going on, so maybe I can legitimately
you're probably
play.
in the same place as a lot of our audience.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So,
That's what.
yeah.
That's kind of half the reason I'm here. I suspect. Okay, so compare this to like some of the gears that like Wout van Aert would use on a Tour de France stage. How much is it gonna change his setup? Because some of the riders do push those massive, dinner plates around on their bike.
So Wout van Aert's a perfect example because those guys are on SRAM, so they are affected by this, so basically the maximum SRAM gear. If you've got a 10 tooth on the back, the biggest chainring you can run on the front is a 49. They often run in the high 50s, like 56, 58. And the reason they do that is not for the maximum gear. Like, they're not trying to get a bigger gear because that doesn't really help you. There's only to spin out a 5610, you have to be going like 95k an hour, right? Like you're talking about gears that are never really even going to be used, but they run them because they want a better chain line, so straighter chain in between chainring and the rear cogs, and they want less chain articulation. Larger cogs require the chain to bend less. And we're talking about like real marginal gains here, but sort of a couple watts in savings potentially from running a drivetrain like that. So that's why they're running those drivetrains as they are. If they are forced to drop down to this limit, they can either run a 4910, which doesn't exist. SRAM doesn't sell a 49. So then they have to run a 4810, and then they have a lower gear than the maximum available to a Shimano rider because they can run a 5411. Or, and this is what the UCI actually recommended, they could block off, so the mechanics could block off the 10-tooth cog on the back of these bikes so that they don't have access to it. So they would essentially go from a 12-speed in the back to an 11-speed on the back, and they could only get down to that 11-tooth cog on the back. So they basically they would go back to what SRAM offered in, like, what was it, 2018. They'd go back to the 11-speed bikes that they used to ride. Or SRAM could custom build a cassette that goes from 11 up to whatever, 32 or whatever on the other side of it. And so my guess is that if this actually was implemented, or even just for the tests, I bet SRAM just custom CNCs a bunch of.
Because then you got to sell it publicly as well, don't you, to be able to use it in the race?
They're not really. SRAM has made custom cassettes for and chainrings setups for the pros for quite a while that you can't buy.
So will this stop riders doing the sort of pedal descent that we've become accustomed to seeing, where you can't just glide down anymore? Because
that is, the concept behind this is that you prevent you don't allow the riders to pedal to increase speed past a certain mark, right? So it's pretty rare that you end up in these situations. Basically, if you're talking like long alpine descent kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Where you may actually be riding at 80, 90, 100k an hour. If you've got a gear like this, you can stay on top of the gear and you can actually go even faster. Now,
it's
one of the things that doesn't.
It's what Isaac Del Toro could have done the day he
pedaled
lost
down the hill. Yeah.
But
well, but so this is the thing, right? Is like generally if you're going that fast, you're better off tucking because of the nature of aerodynamics and how much more power it takes to increase speed when you're going that fast. Like you would need to go to actually apply power to go from 85 to 90 kilometers an hour, you'd probably have to close to double the amount of power that you're putting.
So much power,
right?
yeah.
Like it doesn't make any sense. It's a waste of energy. Just tuck, right? And so there's just not a whole lot of instances in which this is actually being utilized.
So it's just gonna be a pain in the ass to switch all the bikes out rather than actually making a huge difference to how fast the rider's able to go.
Yeah, and I think that like the real question is, okay, so I'm sitting here. I'm not in the World Tour peloton. Do I care? I mean, potentially, because national governing bodies tend to pull their technical regulations from the UCI. And so if the UCI implements this, generally the national governing bodies will also implement this rule. And so at things like a national championship or anything that was governed by, like here in the States, it'd be USA Cycling, Australia be off cycling, right? Like anything governed by those organizations would fall under these rules. And if you are an amateur with a SRAM group set, chances are it runs afoul of these rules. Like a very popular amateur drivetrain setup for SRAM is a 50-tooth big ring with that sort of 1033 or whatever cassette in the back, and that is just over the limit. 5010 is like just a hair over the limit because the UCI basically chose a Shimano gear ratio, a common Shimano gear ratio to use for this. So the whole thing is, some of it is like Tempest in a teapot. I don't think it makes a ton of difference, to be perfectly honest. And I don't really care if they cap the gears at 5411. I don't think in the end it's going to change bike racing in any meaningful way. I think you could actually make an argument that the where it will slow down a little bit, the peloton, is not on those big descents. It's the fact that they can't run those really efficient drivetrains anymore. You can't run the sort of 56 or 58 on the front. We see this all the time in time trials because that's what really matters, but you're seeing it more and more in regular road racing as well, particularly for the sprinters, because they get that better chain line, they get a slightly more efficient drivetrain. In theory, okay, let's say you save in 2 or 3 watts there. You just made the peloton 2 or 3 watts slower. If you add enough of these things up, maybe you slow the whole thing down. But I think in general it's just not going to do anything, and you're just going to sort of force the brands to make a bunch of changes and the mechanics to make a bunch of changes in the.
Well, at least the brands can then release a whole new line of products. Yeah. Which people then buy.
Yeah,
maybe.
Well, yeah. The great irony is, like I said, for like amateur bike racers, this is probably an issue.
Yeah, it kind of sucks.
For most of us, most SRAM equipped road bikes show up with gears that are under this. They show up with usually a 48 as a big ring. So like I said, it's simultaneously kind of just like dumb and annoying, and a bit of a tempest in a teapot, and just like kind of irrelevant. Ronan, I'm sure, is
yeah. We'll have to
it.
get Ronan's thoughts when he's.
I actually sent him. We posted up on Instagram last night, and I sent it to him on Instagram and said, "This is so you can ride your last day in anger," because he's doing his last day of his ride today. And I'm sure like he would have more feelings on this, frankly, than I would. For me, it falls in a similar category as some of the other stuff that they have done in the last couple of weeks, which is just like, sure, like it's not really going to have that much impact on the sport. The handlebar stuff, I think, is the biggest one.
Yeah.
I struggle to.
Yeah.
Get too hyped up about it.
Yeah, I think we got through that segment fine. I found it.
People learn stuff.
Informative. Makes a change.
Good. There's a lot of numbers chucked around there. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Speaking of going fast, Tom Pidcock.
108, 110. 105, 115. Oh my God, did you see that? 115 kilometers an hour. No, that was insane.
Yeah.
He's
went pretty fast.
He went.
Can I? And I pun fully intended. Can I just put the brakes on this one a little bit? How fast did he go, Johnny?
115 kilometers an hour.
They go that fast all the time. So I'm not really sure.
He said he never had been that fast. Said he'd gone 105 kilometers an hour.
Yeah,
and
maybe.
It was he didn't go to the Giro, but he's been doing this stuff. It's with Red Bull. Tom Pidcock was attached via rope to some guy on like a dirt
that's
bike.
the crazy part.
Yeah, that was.
115, that's like 70 miles. That seems more than all the time. You think? I feel like they're
maybe not all the time.
capping
But
it like
especially not with a rope and behind like a guy on a dirt bike dragging you down a mountain.
That's the crazy part.
That is
a
little
the crazy part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why he did this.
They top 100 regularly.
Yeah.
In races.
It was like 10 kilometers more than he had ever been before, I guess. But yeah, it was on the I then went on the Red Bull Instagram page, which I never do. I'm not a Red Bull guy. I don't need that whatever taurine making my little heart go, tick faster. Don't need that in my life. Trying to chill out.
Mike.
I'm no Fedora Mike. And yeah, I didn't really get the point. But you know what? If that's what what makes him happy, if he enjoyed that, then who am I to not allow him to do that? But
There's a
The rope.
descent in Boulder that Tom Pidcock should go to because you can go faster than that without being towed by.
Tell me more. Where am I going, Caley?
You just
Not
need to drop.
not Flagstaff.
No, Sugarloaf.
Of course.
Yeah.
Sugarloaf with a tailwind. There's a section that is just sort of like 10% for a while and goes straight for a long time, and I've topped 120 on that.
Whoa.
Last time I rode bikes with Caley, I climbed with him, and I was very proud of myself because I was worried I was going to get dropped on this climb. It was Linden.
But I love going slow up hills.
It was Linden.
Yeah.
And then we descended, and Caley had to wait for me for like a minute and a half at the bottom of the climb. I guess it wasn't the last time. That was actually a couple of years ago, but it was kind of funny. I felt like I was so proud of myself for not getting dropped on the climb, and then immediately I just like watched Caley descend.
You let him do that, Dane, because that's what you got to do with the boss.
That's
Let them get the minor victories.
I don't descend like that anymore. Like it's,
that's
Two
that's
kids.
what people
It's
say
one
when
of
they
those,
have
like-
kids, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I turned into a total wuss immediately.
I have a quick racing update.
Okay.
Johnny, a rider from the island of Great Britain, has just won a stage at the Tour de Suisse. Are you going to call him a brave British boy? I'm putting you on the spot here. Oscar Unruh.
Well, he's from Scotland, isn't he?
I
So
know.
That's up to him.
Okay, there we go.
That's up to him.
Passing the buck there. Yeah.
Usually what Brits would do, this is what we do with Andy Murray, is that when he wins, he's British, but
He's
when he
British.
loses,
Yeah,
he's
yeah, got it.
Scottish. So
Yeah,
today,
yeah,
Oscar Onley is British.
Got it. That's like Philippe Gilbert. I've heard Belgians say that he's Belgian when he
Yes.
wins. Oh, he's a Walloon when he
Yeah,
doesn't.
exactly. But no, good stuff. Good stuff for Oscar Onley. Well done. Well done to the man born in
Congratulations to him.
2002. Insane.
Oh God.
Final bit of this section, Uno X Mobility were the first to announce their Tour de France roster, which I don't think gets you on the podium in Paris, but I guess at least you've won something. They announced their 8-man squad, including Jonas Abrahamsson, who spent some time in the polka dots last year, if I remember correctly. I think he did. I think that was him, one of the Norwegian fellas. Anyway, pretty much as soon as it was announced, not as soon as it announced, maybe the following day, he then crashed in the opening stage of the Baloise Belgium Tour, broke his collarbone, no longer going to Tour de France. Sad. But Alexander Kristoff was omitted from the initial 8-man squad in what would have been his final Tour de France, partly because there's not that many sprint stages. He said himself he kind of felt the writing was on the wall. But now, that 8th spot,
You never know.
I think Ian
never
Treloar
know.
has already furiously sent off messages to find out. Because if Kristoff's not at the Tour, I'm not sure Ian will actually come.
Yeah, he may just decide to stay in Norway,
Yeah,
where he's more likely to run into Alexander Kristoff.
indeed. Yes.
He's very likely, right?
Yeah, I
they're
think
like,
it's literally
they're like
next
neighbors.
town over, I think.
Yeah.
Ian, Kristoff pops around to ask to borrow some milk. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that sort of setup. But
I'm
yeah.
looking forward to getting the rest of these rosters. It's starting to come together. The tour is
Mm,
officially imminent. Yeah,
officially, yeah.
it is officially
Mad.
imminent.
It's always fun when you get. I mean, it's not fun when it's Kristoff because that just kind of bums me out. Because I did want that Swan song, but it is always fun to get that like, oh, so and so actually isn't going the tour, and then you wonder what happened there.
Yeah.
What did he do?
Well, it's when they've got an expiring contract in 2025 and then they don't go to the tour. It's like they're on the move.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the other punishment tour is no tour.
Ooh, yeah. Makes sense.
That's yeah. Yeah.
Should we take a quick break and come back and go to Corrections Corner?
Why not?
Let's do it. Welcome back, everybody. We have a Corrections Corner. Can we say where
Yes.
this came from, Johnny?
Yeah, I'll be slightly ambiguous, but it got DM'd into the Spin Cycle Instagram, which don't check that often, just because I can barely be on my own Instagram for more than 5 minutes. So yeah,
Yep.
luckily saw it. It was sent in from someone at PCS, Pro Cycling Stats, who I've never had the delight of chatting to before. So that was fairly novel. I'm just going to read it out as it came in because I felt that's fairest. Dear people from the Spin Cycle podcast, very formal, like it. Okay, I'm just gonna. I said I'd read it out, but now I have to read out praise, which will make me feel sick in my mouth. First of all, love the work that you do, but I would like to place a comment on what you said about the 1,000th win of Soudal Quickstep. We at PCS spent the best part of a whole day figuring all this out, Apparently, Ciudad Quickstep is counting Barredo's stage win in Paris 2008, whilst they don't count their other 2 strip victories, so that's very odd. They also count San Sebastian 2007, but the UCI has not officially declared Garrete as the official winner. So their win count should be 998 or 999, because it's kind of odd that the UCI didn't grant San Sebastian in 2007 to Garrete. So that hopefully that brings... I just wanted to say that to close the book on that whole thing, because I even found it very confusing after looking at it for more than 5 minutes. But the good news is that Paul Magnier won 2 races after Evenepoel officially got the 1,000th win, according to them, and Tim Merlier won stage 1 of the Belgium Tour. So they're well past the 1,000 now, so we can all forget about it.
Who won San Sebastian 2007 that got removed? I do not remember.
I can't tell you that.
I can. I'm looking it up right now. Leonardo Bertagnolli won the San Sebastian.
So did he get it stripped? Is that why?
Leonardo Bertagnolli, of the Lamprey team, which is currently the best team in the world, by the way. I'll point that out.
By the way.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, there's that. I've got another. This isn't a correction. It's more of an addendum, I guess would be the word. Coming in from John D on Discord about the dog that came 13th, I think, in the Queen stage of the Women's Tour of Colombia. So John D writes that, or explains that dogs typically have a VO2 max of over 100, and so humans have what, like,
the
obviously
best
less than
ever
that.
is something around there. Yeah.
Best ever, but that's ever, and that's just a normal
best
dog.
Best ever is like somewhere around, I can't remember, it's somewhere around 100, some Norwegian skier or something.
Yes, that rings a bell. But then apparently a conditioned sled dog can be in the 300 range. So
whoa,
not normally, I would say, about that dog. Get that dog tested in Colombia for that VO2. Where's that dog's biological passport?
I think that actually is a problem in sled dog racing. I think that
really
they dope the sled dogs.
Wow. I mean, they dope horses in horse racing in the UK.
Yeah,
that's
they
true.
dope all the horses. Yeah.
But
I am not a sled dog expert, so like don't quote me on that. But I feel like I've read stories about. I think they mostly like they'll give them sort of uppers, right?
Are there
more
listeners
like
to
doping.
our pod who are experts on this?
there must be. There will be one. We've not spoken about a topic so far in all this podcast life where someone's not known about something.
Somebody will DM me with facts.
They'll be like, I've got an auntie up in Alberta, and she says X, Y, Z.
Yeah, I think the doping is more like like 40s, 50s cycling doping. Just like take some
barbiturates.
Yeah.
Less EPO, more.
Come on, you can get there.
Party drugs.
Yeah.
I was expecting a pun. Oh well. No. So that's just two. That's just 2 bits of housekeeping. This is sometimes back and forth, and people know more than us. So there we have it. We have clarification on the Quickstep win, and that dog. We need to find that dog because that might,
Yeah, you need to do some testing. See what's going on.
We've got some stuff on the slate for After Dark, but this feels like we're petering out to the end of the regular show. I mean, that was kind of a taste of what you get in After Dark if you're listening on the free feed, really.
True. Yeah, trust tree stuff.
Stuff.
Let's call it there. Let's call it there. We've got plenty of podcasting ahead of us here. We will be back on Monday with another episode of Spin Cycle. And like I said, we are currently recording all these Unchained Binge podcasts. So those will drop once the show drops, which is July 2nd. And you can binge the show and binge the pods. And I think we're going to drop them all at the same time, or maybe within a couple days there. Obviously, that's only a couple days away from the actual start of the Tour de France. So the Tour dailies will be starting around there. We don't want to overlap that too much. But yeah, working on those right now. Been enjoying the just ridiculous Frenchness of Unchained this year. If you are a Francophile, you too will enjoy this particular season. I think with that, we will head into After Dark. If you are not a member, you're missing out on so much stuff. You really should head over to escapecollective.com/join. Sign yourself up. Don't miss all the good stuff during the Tour de France. Don't miss After Dark in the Tour Dailies, where we will provide
that's the good stuff.
Trust tree insight into
Yeah.
what it's like to cover the Tour de France. Don't miss it. All right. We'll see you Monday. Or if you're a member, we'll see you in 15 seconds.